Hello, my name is Grin, and this is my beard. What crumb am I pulling out of my beard today? The crumb of finances and economics. Economy. So, Japan's economy is a bit different than where I'm from in America. I don't know about where you're from, but some things are just completely different or valued completely differently here in Japan. And I wanted to talk about that in the case of going to the supermarket. Uh, in Japan, most people don't have really big refrigerators. They have smaller refrigerators, and they end up going to the supermarket once every day or every other day. They go often. In where I'm from in the United States, we go to the store, the supermarket once a week and buy a whole bunch of stuff and just stuff the refrigerator with it and then live off of that for the week. And if you needed anything else in between, then you would make a quick stop and just buy something quick. But you'd have one big shopping session and you'd have this huge cart of full of stuff and take that home and put it in the refrigerator when I lived in the States. Yeah, so it's very different here in Japan. And also, uh, if you live in any of the bigger cities, doing that is not it's not a good idea because um, transportation isn't as easy. People who live in the cities, probably most people don't have or don't use a car very often. They'll use the train system or even the buses. The train systems here are pretty good in the cities, but I live in the countryside, so there's not the train system here is there's only one train line and it's not very convenient. So we drive a lot. So we do end up going to the supermarket once every 3 days or so. Although my mother-in-law, she goes to the supermarket almost every day to buy this or that for cooking or whatever. Especially if she's really tired, she doesn't want to cook a lot. She'll buy prepared food at the supermarket. They have a deli there that they'll have all kinds of different things that are already made and ready to go. You just heat it up. And okay, I want to talk about two things: supermarkets and convenience stores. But we'll start with the supermarkets. And the big thing I notice at supermarkets is fruit is extremely expensive in Japan. Vegetables are not so expensive. Vegetables are there's a lot of farmers here, so vegetables they're pretty cheap. They're not not cheap, but they're inexpensive comparatively. I don't know. I haven't been in the States for a while, so I don't know what the prices of vegetables are there now. Probably not cheap anymore. But yeah, fruit is a different story. I remember going to the States a few years ago, about 3 years ago, just before coronavirus hit, and you could buy a bunch of grapes for a couple dollars, a big bunch of grapes, or five or half a dozen oranges for a few dollars. Whereas here in Japan, a small tub of grapes, like just like a bowl of grapes, might cost you $5 or $6. And if you want the really good grapes, okay, they are really good grapes. They're very big and plump and juicy and shiny. They are very tasty too, and those might cost you, $8 to $10 for a small bunch of them. And then you get into other things like, okay, an orange. I bought two oranges the other day, and it was about $4 for two oranges, $4 or $5, almost, yeah. And that's these are out of season. These are the oranges that are not the best oranges. So they've been there for a while. People aren't buying them, so they've gotten down in price. Usually, they might be about 300 or $3 for one orange. And then they have pears, these really big Japanese pears. They're not the pear shaped pears that you might be used to, with the pear shape. These are like, they look like apples, but they're bigger, and they're just the most tasty things in the world to me. And if you get them in season, you can get them for as low as like $2.50 US for one, or about $5 for two, and they're just fantastic though. So if you haven't had a Japanese pear, nashi, then you should try it because it's so different than what you would expect from a regular pear. It's like a cross between a pear and an apple. It's got this texture that's just fantastic. They're really sweet. They might be a little bit tart. Depends on the quality of the ones that you get, but even the tart ones are very, very tasty. So those are pretty expensive, but then you get into things that I would never have expected to be so expensive, and that's melons. Melons and watermelons. And these things can go for like $100 for one. And I see them for sale, and it's like, this one's Ichimanya and $100 or so. And it's like, why? I don't, they can't be that tasty. And apparently it's just because it's harder to grow them here. When I was in the States in Arizona, I remember on our little farm, we had a couple horses and some chickens and ducks and stuff. And we had bought some. I wrote a story about this that was published in a magazine a while ago, Green Prince magazine, called Mama's Melons, or yeah, Mama's Melons. Great title for a story, but it was kind of the last thing that my grandmother did, and the last thing that she gave me before she died from emphysema. Before she died from emphysema, we were out. It was the summertime, I guess, and we were. She had bought some melons, some cantaloupe, or yeah, I think it was cantaloupe melons, and she was cutting them up outside and taking the seeds out and tossing them to the ducks and geese and chickens, and they would eat that. And then I don't know, a little time after she died, a few months later, I was outside that same area, looking out towards the horse corrals, and I saw these like round cannonballs just in the yard, just out there in the yard, and it turned out that some of those seeds that the chickens and ducks had eaten they had pooped it out over there, and they just grew on their own. And when we changed the water for the horses trough, that water would go down and into that area and water the cantaloupe that was growing there. There was like 5 cantaloupe there just sitting there. Didn't even know they were growing until I just saw them. What are cannonballs? Cool. No, they're melons. So it's like, to me, melons are something that they're really cheap and easy. But here in Japan, $100 for a melon. Hell, I can't. I just, it boggles my mind every time I see it. And you'll see some other really expensive fruits too sometimes. Like, oh, strawberries can get really expensive here, and they're ubiquitous. There's so many strawberry farms around here. You can actually go to the farm itself and pay like $5, and then you get a little bag, and you can cut or gather whatever strawberries you want and put them in that bag. Anything you can fit in that bag for $5. And you go to the supermarket and you see these really big strawberries, and they want like $5 a piece for them. Just one strawberry. It's like, what? Pricing is quite interesting when it comes to fruit. Fruit is just not as easy to grow here. Now, I lived in Gunma Prefecture for a while, and they actually had, where I was at in Meiwamachi, they had all these tree farms, and I was like, what kind of tree farms are those? What do they grow? And it turns out they were nashi, they were pears. And all the pears that I got from Gunma in that Meiwamachi area, those pears were just the best pears I've ever had. Delicious, delicious. However, even when you buy them from the farm, they're not that expensive. I could get, 3 for $5. And they're when I say pears, you might be thinking like a little pear like it goes in your hand. No, these pears are like huge. They're giant. They're as big as my head. You don't believe me? You should look it up. Look it up. They're pretty awesome. And so the pricing here that I find most interesting is that fruit is just crazy priced here. And I don't know if people just don't eat a lot of fruit or they do and they just spend a lot of money for that fruit. But it's like when you have to spend that much money for fruit, people aren't buying candy as much, or people are. I don't know. But I don't know. Fruit is it's kind of like a dessert. It's a dessert here in Japan. It's considered a dessert food. All right, so now we're going to move on to convenience stores. Convenience stores are way different here in Japan than they are in the States. Like, one of the cool things that I used to love about the States was you could go in there and you could get a fountain drink, like a 32-ounce cup, and just fill that sucker up with whatever soda pop you wanted to get. Well, whatever they had. Usually it was based on like the brand, if it was Pepsi or if it was Coke. And then they would have different kinds of Pepsi products or different kinds of Coke products, depending on which um, convenience store you went to or which gas station you went to. Now, in the States, gas stations are usually also convenience stores. So you've got the gas station, and then you've got this building where this is the convenience store. Uh, Here in Japan, that's not a thing. Uh, Gas stations and convenience stores are completely separate. I haven't, I don't remember seeing any convenience store like 7-Eleven or Circle K or anything like that that actually sold gas too. I'm not saying they don't exist, I just haven't seen them. Um, so if they do exist, I don't know. But gas stations and convenience stores are separate. And then the convenience stores, they don't have any fountain drinks. They don't do the fountain drink thing. They might have a coffee station or something like that where you can buy a cup and then you've got this coffee machine that makes the coffee for you. And they'll have different kinds of coffee, cafe lattes and mocha creams and stuff like that. But for when it comes to soda pop or anything like that, no. You got to buy it in a bottle. They or a can, but cans aren't so big anymore. They don't really sell canned drinks that much. They exist. They're still around. You can still find cans of soda, but just not nearly as much as you can find bottles of soda. You can still find cans of beer though. And speaking of beer, they actually have beer vending machines here in Japan. So I thought that if you Google that, you might see beer vending machines. Anyways, going on beyond that, convenience stores, they have a lot of cooked food or prepared food and a lot of things like onigiris and sandwiches and stuff like that. I remember in the States going to the convenience, they might have one or two different kinds of sandwiches and maybe a burrito or something like that that you'd have to heat up in the microwave. But in Japan, they usually have a almost like a deli section. They've got uh, fryers and stuff in the back that they can cook things, and they'll have like fried chicken or chicken tenders or nuggets or um, different things like that. They'll sell um, oden. Oden is pretty popular here. If you don't know what that is, it's like steamed Oden? Wait, yeah, Oden. Steamed stuff. I mean, you might either be eggs in there or seaweed things and konnyaku and these are all things that are very Japanese. So I don't know if there's even an English word for them. Um, Konnyaku. No, I don't think there's an English word for it. It's just konnyaku. They sell that kind of stuff. Oh, and fish paste. um, then they'll have like coffee sections, all kinds of different coffees. They sell a lot of different coffee, even Starbucks coffee. But you might be used to getting Starbucks coffee in those like glass bottles, um, with the frappes or whatever they're called. They don't have that here in Japan. They have just like just a cup of coffee. It's just like a little cup where you take a straw and you stab it in the top and you drink it that way. And it's a very small amount of coffee, and it's usually cafe latte or cappuccino. Those are usually the only two they have, and every once in a while they'll have a special promotional flavor or something like that. And then it's not only Starbucks; they have a bunch of different other um, companies, beverage companies that make different kinds of coffees, which is pretty cool. I usually get myself a one or two Starbucks cafe lattes a day. It's probably too much, and they're expensive too. This little cup of coffee is like uh, $2. It's like $2 for a little cup of coffee. Pretty expensive. Um, then yeah, that they'll have one section of like drinks and whatnot, but not like in the states. Like in the states, you might see this whole huge wall of refrigerators with different drinks and stuff in it. And the ones in Japan are usually just one small wall, and then they'll have an open fridge with other stuff in it as well. It is quite different. They sell a lot of breads, different kinds of like packaged breads, and there'll be like curry flavored bread or cheese stuffed scones or whatever. I don't know what they're all called, but different kinds of breads. Just lots of different kinds of breads in little packages. That's that's kind of the convenience store experience. You go in, you get your fried chicken, and and it'll be in a little bag, maybe a boneless fried chicken type of thing. I know the Lawson has their what's it called? Lawson chicken is called, I don't know what it's called, but I do know the one that I liked was potty potty chicken, just like this crunchy outer fried chicken breast type of thing. I don't know. Family Mart is another convenience store here. They have Fammy chicken, and then 7-Eleven has Agedori and Nana chicken. Nana means seven chicken, and it's kind of spicy. And they usually have a red colored spicy version, and then a regular like pepper version, and then no spice version. So yeah, that's most of the basic differences of the economic style here of convenience stores and supermarkets. Let's see. Bread is much more expensive here in Japan when you're talking about like white bread. They don't even sell full loaves of bread. They usually sell a quarter loaf or a half loaf. So you'll get a package about this big with half of a loaf of bread, and usually it doesn't have a heel. The heel's been taken out, so it's just sliced white bread or sliced wheat bread, whatever bread you want, and that'll be like $2 to $3 for a half or a third of a loaf. I guess it's a third of a loaf. It's not that big, depending on, and there'll be different slice sizes too that you can choose from. Um, so bread and milk. Milk, they don't sell it in the gallon; they sell it in the liter. It takes what almost 3 liter, or about 3 liters for 1 gallon. So 1 liter of milk here will be about $1.50 for a liter. So you're talking about that times three, right? I think 3.7 or something like that. 3.7 liters to a gallon. I think I can't remember. My head's in metric now. I don't really even think about gallons or anything. But yeah, a liter. So what we're talking about, two, three, four, about $5 for a gallon of milk, approximately $5 for a gallon of milk, maybe. That's about yeah, that's about right. Beer though, okay, let's go to like if you're going to a izakaya or a, a bar. They don't really have bars here in Japan. They have snacks and they have izakayas. Um, and they don't do things like karaoke bars, but you usually have karaoke at snacks. It started here in Japan. Karaoke is a Japanese thing, and it was a thing that they would have at these things called snack bars, which are just like a bar, uh, with a very interesting way of charging you for things where there's no prices listed. It always seems like the owner or the mama-san or the papa-san is just uh, choosing whatever he wants to charge each time you go there. Sometimes I wonder, it's like, why is it okay? I was here 2 hours. I drank this many drinks. Yesterday I was here for 2 hours, and then yesterday I spent 3,000 yen, but today I spent 6,000 yen. What was the difference? Sometimes I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know, and there's no price listing. So if I ask them what's the price of nantoka, then they'll tell me. But um, yeah, even on your receipt, when you get your receipt, it's just the total price. It's not itemized on everything that you got. That's what a snack bar is. So be careful. They can charge you for whatever they want, and as long as you're not too, if you're really uh, diligent, then you can make sure that you're not being overcharged. But if you're the type of person to go into the place more than once, often, then usually they'll be fair because they want you to come back. They want you to come back and spend more money. So if they charge you little the first time and they charge you more the second time, then that's because they're kind of making up for the last time. And then the next time will be a regular price, a more reasonable price. Just keep that in mind. They're not going to always overcharge you because they realize that they want to keep their customers. Okay, so a beer. You want to buy a beer, you could get a okijogi, ojogi, something like that, or chujogi for it's like a pint and a half of beer for the okijogi. And that might cost you, depending on where you go, most places will be around $3 to $5 for a beer, for a big mug of beer. Let's see, what else is economics that I can tell you. Gasoline, they sell by the liter, so again, I don't really know what the conversion rate is for that. A liter of gas right now is about 180 yen, which is, I guess, that would be about $1.50, maybe about $1.50 per liter, 3 liters. So we were talking about gasoline and milk are about the same price. Gasoline and milk are about the same price in Japan. All right. Well, it's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Sticker shock of certain things and how things are differently priced here in Japan. Hope you find that interesting. If there's anything you want to know about pricing or whatnot, let me know. And I'll try to make a video about more pricing stuff next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.